This is the night I find him. Actually a video feed. Harvesting data, I'm sure. Conversation would be one. Government issued. I can search my personal files, plus a few public databases. It's on. What should I search for? An archive of my published... the ones rescued from the censors anyway. An archive of my published articles. The ones rescued from the censors anyway. This lot holds my official documents. Houses change, the paperwork remains. Going over it all would take an eternity. I must focus my search. I mainly covered technology. His name never came up. Nothing. Shows how close we were as siblings. There's a lot to sift through. Looking for what? Our guardian's death certificate is in there. Mentions an address where Leo lived at the time. Leo Dormer, residing at 17 Taibao Street. Good start. But I have no idea where that is. I load a map of the city. There. 17 Taibao Street. It's in the new territories. Barking dogs, broken bottles, that kind of neighborhood. Didn't expect any better from Leo. Padlocked. I yank on the chain. Won't budge. I wonder if I can locate a key somehow. Says 17 on it. I peer inside. Empty. Nothing unusual. Pungent, though. It's decomposing. Wonder how long that's been there. I press the button. A crackle. smoker's voice on the other end. Angry old man. He sounds divided. Shout at a stranger to scram. All good excuse for a rant. I switch on the reporter charm. Ranting it is then. I explain that my brother used to live at number 17. The name rings a bell. They didn't interact much but had been on good terms. Leo helped the old man carry a bed frame upstairs when he moved in. Solid wood, too. He also recalls a gathering to celebrate Leo's university enrollment. Is he certain? About the university part? Yes, he says. A local university, although he can't remember which. Leo moved out soon after and was never seen again. But he was very proud of that, becoming a student so late in his life. So what happened next door? He sighs. A few years ago, the landlords hired a company to renovate it. They never completed the job, and the place was left to rot. Is that why it's boarded up? No, he says, the orphans are to blame. They set up camp next door. They rummage through bins, break into empty properties. He even tried to sell him his own rubbish after he throws it out. Scavengers, he calls them. No good scavengers. Could they be selling items found at number 17? Of course, he says. They'd sell you their own mothers if they could. Not that they have any, I say. No response. What did they find in the house? He recommends I ask the orphans directly. The landlords. He's never met them, but wouldn't mind a word or two about the mess. What can you tell me about the renovating company? Wouldn't hire them myself, he says. Does he remember the university name? UMC or GMU, he says, something with 3 letters. He apologizes. His memory isn't what it used to be. I thank him anyway. I thank him for his time. Be careful out there, he says. Unlabeled. I bet it's high percentage stuff. I venture a few questions. Conversation proves difficult. I'm not sure we speak the same language. Or maybe he has no interest in talking to me. I take great care to ensure he gets the point. Number 17, you. Find. Me. Buying. A light is switched on. He reaches into his bag, revealing worthless junk. A bundle of pens, elastic bound, rusty motherboard, ancient photo frame, chipped wood, slim pickings. I toss him a coin for his trouble. Number 17. What does he know about it? I don't think he gets the question. I think he's done. He just waves at the objects on the ground. Got to admire the salesmanship. Definitely bricked. It's made of wood. Chipped varnish. Nothing unusual. A bundle of branded pens. Says ULS on them. It says ULS on them. The old man mentioned a 3-letter university name. Long shot, but worth investigating. Bulging belly, black feet. He's had too much of something. Sports brands. Some soiled, some torn. Maybe a few more questions. The old man picks up. Got nothing better to do, he says. I mention the initials. Do they sound familiar at all? ULS, he says. That's the University of Life Sciences. I vaguely remember reading about it. Some riots halted construction a few years back. The building now appears simultaneously demolished and incomplete. Unfinished project. Several parked two-wheelers. I wonder who's in there. They seem pretty out of it. Barely synced to the beat. Don't want to stare at it too long. Passed out. I assume he was manning the projector. It's intense. An alphabet of sorts. Maybe it's just abstract. Definitely dead. A faded printed note. Statue project led by Dormer. Proposals by Friday. I can read it. Led by a certain Dormer. This has to be a coincidence. Or is it? I wonder what the statue project is. I wonder where it leads. Two copies of the same memo. One more faded than the other. Terminal blacklist, students protest. Anderson A. Ange L. Betty G. Chopra D. Chun L. Dama W. Do L. D. The rest is illegible. Unknown spilt liquids. I'm not touching that. A small-scale version of the university includes a statue of a torch-wielding man. There's a quote on the miniature plaque, so that society may gain wisdom as fast as science gathers knowledge. Nothing helpful there. A sketch of a statue. Some kind of insect playing the harp. Someone annotated it with a red pen, suggesting the design was approved. The same person also penned a playful acrostic. B is for brilliant. I is for intellectuals. O is for of. E is for exponential. T is for ta. There used to be more, but the ink has bled. Not much I can do with it. I can't connect his name to it. Looks like it's been emptied. X, Y, and Z physiology mostly. Books on immunology mostly. I to J section. Q to R. A large section on quantum physics. Looks like the bookcases are not in alphabetical order. Books on topics starting with E or F. Loads on ethics and ethnography. K and L, mostly for kinesiology, so much non-digital data. O for optogen, P for pharmacology. M to N, books on molecular stuff and nano things. G and H, whatever that is. Most of the books in here must be forbidden by now. Explains why nobody raided the place. AB. Animal rights, biology, and a large section on bioethics. They've been emptied. A faded print. Statue project. Proposals. That's where it mentions it. It must be one of the proposed designs. Was my brother the dormer in charge of the project? Did he approve it? The symbolism might be significant. The acrostic could also be a clue. Yes, but how? I must focus my search. B-I-O-E-T. It must spell bioethics. I browsed several publications on the topic. One catches my attention. Academic paper on toxic fungi, military operations, weaponized mycotoxins by Amrita Thomas. But it's the endorsement on the back cover that stops me in my tracks. A quote by Leo Dormer, PhD, author of Sinking the 30 Oars Ship. Professor of Bioethics and Ethics of Biology. Should I ask her something? No, she's too far gone. Mass-produced plastic. Nothing unusual. Bolted to the floor. Looks like it's been hijacked. A notice about parking vehicles. Some content is missing. Final notice. Vehicles without authorized, forcibly removed from the please ensure necessary before parking outside the temporary address forwarding. Biochem 7A Market Street. Biophysics 64 Signmakers Yard. Ecology 86 Keshwang Place. Ethics of Biology 341 Belvedere Heights. Virology 65C Crofton Place. Please confirm with office before. Addresses to forward mail to various departments. No mentions of bioethics. But there is an address for the Ethics of Biology Department. 341 Belvedere Heights. I expect it might lead me to a colleague or fellow professor. But this is Leo's home. Electrified. Wrought iron. Prison-like. Digital keyboard. Built-in chatbot. I tap the screen. Who are you visiting today? Please use the authentication panel. My fingers slide into metallic slots. The machine drills. Genetic match. Dust-covered windshields. I don't think they've been driven in a while. Nothing worth reaching for. I don't want to set off any alarms. I knock. I make my presence known. The call is met with complete silence. It reads, now death threats, wiping footprint. Uncle L in panic room, signed M. Still warm, freshly brewed pot. Tempting, but no. Remember, Panoptis, not on your average shopping list. Antique brass spyglass. Can't see anything with it tonight. Manual model. Can't tell if they're waves or clouds. Data destruction cycle incomplete. 186,570 files successfully deleted. Some files could not be deleted. That thing again. Quite the private collection. Many of these books are banned. Hard to see. Must be the panic room. I try knocking. No answer. The panel will open it. It wants a password, of course. Digital keyboard, prompting me for a password. I try his name. No. Wise of him not to go for that. Could be it. No, the book title doesn't work. I have exceeded the number of possible attempts. But I now have the option to reset the password. Security question 1 out of 3. First published piece. I assume it means Leo's first book. Let's see. 2 books with his name on them. Immortal morals. Ancient myths and beliefs, viewed through a modern scientific lens. Sinking the 30 Oars ship, preempting the shortcomings of the biohacking revolution. There's nothing for me to do. I doubt he wrote about that. liked it so much that it was printed in the university newspaper. Leo's original university application, titled Why Bioethics Matter. They liked it so much that it was printed in the university newspaper. They did publish it in the university newspaper. It was called Why Bioethics Matter. Okay, one down. Security question 2 out of 3. Mother's birthday. I know that one. There. Nice of Leo to finally include her in his life. Security question 3 out of 3. Grasshopper lover. No idea what it means. And it's not even a question. A grasshopper. Maybe the insect is meaningful after all. Abstract. So vague. I don't know where to look. Statue plaque draft number 1. Incomplete wish, robbed of humanity. Metamorphosis, music playing insect. Myth of Tithonus. So that's who the insect represents. I'm certain that's him. Ancient seafaring vessel. The painting isn't signed. The name mentioned on the statue plaque. Didn't work. But I feel like I'm getting closer. The name doesn't seem to appear in this book. The name is indexed. Cursed lover of Eos, goddess of the dawn, begged the gods to grant him eternal life, yet forgot to ask for eternal youth, often represented as a cicada or warned me about this place. Yet here I am. Just the three numbers. This is how I make it to the oasis. Green crater in the heart of the desert. It's gravity. It pulls me. Rebellious streak in her. She should be chewing gum. No need. Imposing. Unusual ring pattern. Picture of health. Lean limbs, clear skin. Deep in thoughts, unclothed. 2 fingers on his left wrist. He's monitoring his pulse. Health concerns? He presents his artery as evidence. I anticipate an anomaly in the data, he says. Stiffness in the hinges. Fever to cook the mind. This heart never stutters. He sounds almost let down. The only unknown, he says, is your influence. Maybe I shouldn't be here. Correct, he says. None of us should be here. For grinding grain. Not bathing as much as caressing the surface. How's the water? If you float long enough, she says, the body mistakes gravity for motion. Sounds risky. To incubate means to lie down, she says. You should try it. One of many confusing conversations here. My interlocutor can volunteer information. My information doesn't quite reach them. Wooden, rustic. Miniature versions of the cabin I'm standing in. They're identical, even in their defects. Grotesque carvings, distorted features. Grotesque, distorted features. Doesn't lead anywhere, and I don't need it. They vary in shape and size, but not much. Why? Flour and greyish paste. Both rock hard and breaking down. Finely ground, speckled with ashes. Clay pots, frothy liquids and powders. Red-eyed, hands and face blackened by coal or ash. Is she okay? Can I help? I'm sorry, she says, like a child who disappointed her parents. What for? I don't remember, she sobs. Can she tell me anything about herself? Anything that could help? It's like it doesn't print, she says. I have all this knowledge in my head, but it doesn't print correctly. Someone around here asked about Leo Dormer. Does she know him? It's possible, she says without much conviction. I don't feel great about pressing her, but this is crucial. It backfires. She breaks down. I'm going under soon, she says, and I can't remember my own name. I can't remember my craft. I can't even remember what I look like anymore. She's the best lead I have so far. I must jolt her memory. What does she mean by craft? She answers with another question. Why did they have to make the words so ugly, she asks. I'm unsure what she means. They replaced my instructions, so I had to burn them, she explains. That's why I don't remember, she says. I don't remember what I'm supposed to do. Where did she burn them? Why? Why, she asks back. Why did they make the words so ugly? The topic confuses and upsets her. Goes nowhere. Any pointers? Initials? Nothing. I describe her features. Slender frame, shoulder-length hair. No, she protests. That's all wrong. Okay, I should take it easy on her. Hand-stained timber. It's been hollowed out. Or hasn't been filled in yet. Ancient furnace. Hasn't been fired in a long time. Relentless and precise. Can't tell if he's fixing or destroying it. I know you, he says. Used to read all your articles. Sounds more like scorn than flattery. Under his breath, he calls me a traitor. Did I hear him right? You either live your culture or destroy it, he says. There is no in-between. Couldn't outlast the elements. Catching the light, lizard-like. Leaning like he's lost his balance. I know that stance. Fresh ashes. Why? I run my hand through paper-thin cinders. There is also paper in there. Erdnach. Step 1, illegible. But that must be the instructions. Various stages of rot. Strong fermented smell. I was a real butcher, he laments. A proper rat, apex creature. He burps and retches. I'd gut your office, he says. I'd strip the premises. Even sniffed out a font that saved money on ink. A reporter's hunch. Some of these folks aren't worth my time. Filled with rotting fruit, stacked head high, pyramid-like. Disheveled, begging for attention. In the city, he'd be feeding pigeons. He inquires first. What happens when you place a mirror in front of another mirror? I don't know. Some kind of infinity. You have two mirrors, he says. The thought tickles him. He giggles. Don't know why I expected wisdom. Maybe it's the tree. He giggles. I ask if she's okay. She shoos me away. You're making me forget the tune, she says. Pointy, orchid-like. Strong smell I can only describe as medical. Cleaning fluid or disinfectant. Eccentric posture. Stroking petals as if coaxing an alley cat. Her patience only extends to the flowers. She shushes me with full force. They won't blossom before the moon, she says. Monk-like. I sense impatience, though. He asks why is it so hard to get a straight answer these days. It's all disjointed here. I tell him I've just arrived. I can't trust anyone, he says, moping. Those trees by the river, they weren't there yesterday. Puzzling train of thought. Non sequiturs. Irrelevant answers. I notice a pattern. What are you? She asks. I tell her I'm a reporter. A dog chasing her tail, she says. What's a reporter without news? I'm not sure. We shouldn't talk anymore, she says. Freshly made. Drying in the breeze. Could be her work. I'd like confirmation before I submit it to her. Too easily confused. Full of water, floating fibers. It's to pound vegetation into pulp. Tracing symbols. The focus of a scholar whose eyes were trained on fine print. Her work. I can't tell if it's an alphabet. Mathematics? It's bigger than that, she stammers. The girl. She needs help remembering things. I'm trying to, she says, pointing at her work. I mentioned the word. Erdnak, she repeats, relishing the clacking consonant. Erd, she explains, was meant to sound harsh. In that context, it meant cooked or baked. Nak, she continues, was a shape. Rectangular, to be precise. So, a baked rectangle, that would make sense, she smiles. So, what is a baked rectangle? That's the beauty of my craft, she says. One can invent a tongue without being fluent in it. I don't think she knows. I want to sympathize, or at least understand, but I fail to see how she's helping. Language is a material, she says. Yet we build with clay that's as brittle as boiled bones. Pinches the bridge of her nose in frustration. Or is it bird bones? She's lost me. It's hard to convey, she admits. Does he live here? No, he says. I'm trying to escape. I tell him the door isn't locked. That's why my plan will work, he says. My plan is patience. Right. Can I ask him questions? Wait long enough, he says, and the answers come to you. He doesn't speak again. Another sock puppet spewing out nonsense. I report my findings. An erdnak is a baked rectangle. Oh, she says. But what is that? Good question. Ancient furnace. Hasn't been fired in a long time. Why? Would be right for baking, but it's empty except for crumbled bricks. Although, rectangular, baked. Is that what I'm after? Bricks. I should check with the girl. Does she know how to bake bricks? 77% mud, she recites. 19 sand. 4% straw. A glint of recognition. Gratitude, even. I bake bricks, she affirms. I build bridges that break. Mason is the name I was given here. That is my craft. She's beginning to remember. I approach with caution. She senses my presence. I was promised so much, she says, but it doesn't print. What else does she know about herself? 77% mud, she recites. 19 sand. 4% straw. Broken record. How do I help her? I just want to remember who I was, she says, before I go under. flooded dwellings, unknown decaying structures. Anonymous figure, clutching scrolls or blueprints of some kind. A headless builder brandishing a trowel. The plinth has been defaced. What remains are 3 letters, S-O-N. Doesn't feel like her, and yet the letters match her name. The trowel makes sense. Is that the same person? Let's see if it awakens anything in the girl. I recognize a vial. The rest fell apart. Sanitary clothing, surgical mask, skull cap. The eyes are remarkably lifelike. Another vandalized inscription. I can make out the last 3 letters. E-O-N. Muscular kneeling man. Untitled artwork. This one's a lonely limb. No markings on the plinth. I talk and he appears to listen. Never utters a sound, but my words do get through to him. Does he know her? He shrugs. Who knows or even cares? I thought of these people as neighbours. They're isolated planets whose paths don't overlap. Does he know what the statue used to look like? His fingers dip in the sand. Elegant, clean strokes. He answers with a portrait. Is that the same person? Now his finger rises towards a white moon. The light changes. One of those night skies more solid than the earth itself. He's done here. I should bring the girl to it. I never get to show her the portrait. The ritual begins. A mechanical march. I know exactly where it leads. The heart of the oasis. It's all there, the smells and bells of worship. With none of the fervour. The congregation goes through the motions. I found myself neutered, toothless. Spectator of a sequence 100 times witnessed. In the face of violence, scrutinize his face. His heart grows heavy with regret. He begs me not to go. The words ring like a curse. Iris, he says. Don't go to Phoenix Springs. Yet here I am. It's vague, imprecise, like I'm supposed to be lost. Persistent, glistening with sweat, really taking it out on the electronics. No accident. Looks to me like it fell from a great height. Knock hard on something hard, he says. I should be building buckets, not fixing everybody's mess. How do I find Phoenix Springs? Already there, he says, not missing a beat. Has he heard the name? We aren't supposed to do names, he says. I'm not sure what that means, but I pinpoint what repels me, not the pent-up violence or disdain. He's a stickler. Thanks for nothing. I am no guide, he hisses. I am no tarot card. I have dignity and needs. The formation reminds me of digits. 1, 0, 1. Something about this specific formation. It's a gate, a portal. A tunnel that sucks me in. This is how I make it to the oasis. Green crater in the heart of the desert. It's gravity. It pulls me. Seems as ancient as the mountains themselves. I'm stretching, he says. So I see, wake up and think, empty myself, do my sums, eat. So you see, it's mind, body, like alternating current. Some say it's one, but the binaries won't meet. He goes on. The man can talk, but not listen, apparently. My superior was so boastful, she says, bragging about her 50 years of experience. With all due respect, I told her, sounds to me like you've had 1 year of experience 50 times. I bet she didn't like that. We shouldn't talk anymore, she says. White fingerprints stained the glass panel, medium-sized hands. Flour. No gaps, buttons, or switches. It must lead underground. But how? White fingerprints stained the glass panel, medium-sized hands. Flour. Just toiling away. Hard at work. You know me, she says. How do I access it? Another thing they've moved, she says. The screen should be high up. Some fools must have complained. Others liked it too much. Outdoors, I remind you, we're not meant to have keys. What is she talking about? You'll find out soon enough, she says. I let her get on with her project. The material changes, she says. But the purpose is continuous. Let me guess, he's the baker. That's not a guess, he says. The bread won't shape itself. Can't argue with that. Finely ground, speckled with ashes. That won't help me access it. I noticed flour on the lift. He whispers, is that where I left my memory? I think he let it slip. An admission he's been under. I offer to fetch his memory for him. But what is it? No point, he says, if I don't even remember what it is. I ask questions, casting a wide net. I've come to accept, he says, that it might be better to forget. He's reluctant to remember. I must jolt his memory. Forgetfulness. Repetition. Complex internal logic that solves very little. It's frustrating, but I feel compelled to help him. Deep in thoughts, unclothed. 2 fingers on his left wrist. He's monitoring his pulse. Health concerns? He presents his artery as evidence. I haven't dreamed in years, he says, but I still remember my first heartbreak. A cracked rib cage ripped out of my chest. Is that romance or surgery? I was taught dreams are a byproduct of sleep, he says. Now I know it's the reverse. How do I help him recover it? She answers with a story, told to the oasis as much as to me. We're at the seaside, she says, and it begins to rain. Real cloudburst. We run for shelter. Our bare feet break the top layer of the wet beach. They reveal yellow, dry sand underneath the grey crust, as if we stepped in gold and tracked it behind us. I don't recall her face, she says, but my memory of the smell has never diminished. That's why I crossbreed and pollinate. Each bouquet is unique. It's your fingerprint. What kind of flowers could help? Sometimes, she says, I stand by the fire and imagine winter. It can't be done. Spring here is eternal. I can't remember chills next to the heat. But what about the boy? It's not a science, she says. It's a work in progress. I should ask him instead. I thought of these people as neighbors. They're isolated planets whose paths don't overlap. I hid a tracker on my lover, he says, to follow her path on the map. It was pathetic. Not so much the sleeping around, but the tiny circles traced in town. Drool runs down his chin. He's beaming. I ignore him. I assume that's what they're for, but what is the right combination? Cross-legged, entranced. Cables dance above her head. She bows. Any requests? I have questions. A question is a request, she says. How do I help Baker remember something? A cluster of notes becomes a phrase. A ballad. Is this Baker's? I seem to recall, she nods. She's already recalling his ballad. Any other triggers for the Baker? I only speak music, she says. She does not, but I let it slide. She's already recalling his ballad. She thanks me. What for? It's a privilege, she says, to spend time in there. Does she mean the music? Helmet, head. The musician played me a melody. Might help Baker with his memory. I hum it to myself. The ballad. Can she play it again for me? recalling his ballad. The ballad. Can she play it again for me? His melody. No, lost again. Not so easy, he taunts. The brain yearns to forget. He's not helping. He's reluctant to remember. I must jolt his memory. Any scents he's fond of. He says smells don't affect him. My sinuses have been stuffed for years. I only have nostrils left for flower. I'll have to take his word for it. I must find another trigger. Doors close one by one. Sometimes it's welcome. The melody. It's playful. An ice cream van earworm. Why can't I remember it? She's untroubled. A human jukebox. Simply reconstructs the tune. She's already I hum the song once more. I'll never forget it now. Baker's little tune. I remember how it goes now. I hum the song once more. I can't forget it now. His melody. I hear it. I hum it. We used to play it on the beach, he says. That's the memory I've left below. Peculiar creature. But I think he knows the way down. He's cracked it. Does he remember now? I remember now, he says. Unnumbered sublevels. I notice leaks, unplugged cables. This is legacy technology. Layers built upon layers. Automation without aim. Baker fidgets, gets on my nerves. Can you smell it, he asks. It reeks of the end. Discarded like empty bullet casings. How? Haunted, planted on the spot. Scanning the photograph he picked up from the ground. Is that his memory? I shouldn't be here, he panics. Why would Mason choose this? I'm leaving for the sea. Off he goes again. Forever indecisive. Bouncing between locations. But the name, Mason, dormant inside of me. I've heard it before. A connection to Leo. It wants me to enter a name. M-A-S-O-N. Machinery whirs. A body is flushed out of engine plumbing. Mutilated between states. Clinical imaging device. Bypasses vocal cords. Coils dig into my temples. It's working. The water amplifies. I am the antenna. We tune into each other's thoughts. Let's try the person. Mason. The image is fragmented at first. Thoughts congeal. I see it. A faint trace of personhood. We focus on our location. It triggers a strong response. I catch a flurry of linked ideas. A worksite. A flood. An architect. The sequence ends abruptly, as if halted. Who is the architect? Hard to determine. I feel like we both know. I sense great tenderness. The vision ends. Why is the worksite significant? What happens there? It's unclear. The memory is foreboding. About the flood. It's a dead end. Two souls crammed into one skull. It's indecent. Anybody else up there? great wall surrounds a vortex. The wall screams for me to crash against it. Can we remember the architect? Barely. An iota of ego, wrapped up in torturous motion. I visualize a worksite. The thought pierces through, unearths buried sediments, accreted over time. It calls for a name, but whose? We see it now. It's too much. The vision trips something. But I extracted it. The missing piece, source of the torment. Mason's accident. I bring Mason back out. Looks like we're back to the original loop. The self erased and reframed. We rebuild the memory from the ground up. It starts with a person, Mason. I see it. A faint trace of personhood. This place. We see the location clearly. Always triggers the same ideas. A worksite. A flood. An architect. Who is the architect? I sense great tenderness. The vision ends. The accident shouldn't be survived. Life hangs by a thread, and yet the thread is respun. It is rebirth. The procedure. All these people around Mason. Our lives become entangled. That's why I'm in the room, covering it for the newspaper. A strange mirror. Memories of me that aren't my own. Is that all they see? Is that all I am? So remember now, something happens to me here. I become broken. An engine that only produces one question. But it is me. The reason his name lives on. I ask about Leo endlessly. I may not see the full picture. But I know exactly where to find it. It beckons. How long have we been doing this? Years, decades, millennia. Our documented history. It's nice someone kept copies. He asks if I feel better. Heard sobbing in the cabin. I'm fine, I tell him. I used to call it rainwater, he says. It would cheer up my granddaughter. A little rainwater never hurt anyone. I study the strangely lucid person next to me. Realize I've no idea who or what they are. And that for a brief moment,